Hello, everybody. Brandon here. I wanted to try out a little series, I guess, and thinking about calling it Tales from the Galaxies or something. You'll see the title when you click on the video. But what it's going to be is recountings of just memories from Star Wars Galaxies, which was a MMO that ran for geez, I don't know how many years. I probably should check before I fucking started recording, but it was around for a pretty good while. I didn't get into it right at the beginning because I didn't know about it. When I fucking first saw it in a store was when I first heard about it, and I just kind of got it on impulse. So this first episode is just going to intro my experience with Star Wars Galaxies, and then in future episodes I'll tell like specific fun stories. That I can remember, because there was a lot of interesting folks and situations that I encountered while playing Star Wars Galaxies. But yeah, I suppose to set the mood for the rest of the series, I'm not sure how old I might have been. I might have been 12 because I think I turned 13 while I was playing the game. Um, so I was at a Walmart with my mom somewhere in Palmdale, and they had some PC games like on a little thing. Like it wasn't like a wall of them or anything. And I saw Star Wars Galaxies. Now I like Star Wars in a particular way. I like Star Wars things that appeal to me for whatever reason. I'm gonna take my glasses off. Like I'm not. I wouldn't call myself like a general Star Wars fan, maybe, or like a super fan because I haven't even bothered to watch any of the movies that have come out recently at all. I haven't seen Force Awakens or whatever the fuck the rest of them are called, and I don't really intend to because I have zero interest in seeing them. And according to things I've heard, maybe I'm right to not see them. Because again, I'm not like a super fan. I don't need to consume every piece of Star Wars media. I just kind of generally like it. Um, because even the movies that I like, I have issues with. And if you're a super fan, you can't ever dislike anything about the thing you like. But anyway, to stay on topic, I saw it, and some of the screenshots on the back looked really cool, and it made a big deal of emphasizing that you create your character, and then you kind of just do whatever the fuck you want. And to me, that sounded amazing because I didn't have any kind of game like that. And the idea of being able to travel to different planets and just kind of doing my own thing sounded incredible. Um, so I was, I was like, I need this. So I bought it. And I had never even heard of an MMO at that point because I didn't have internet at home. My dad had internet in Orange County, but I lived with my mom primarily in Palmdale. We didn't have internet at my mom's house. Um, so I didn't know what an MMO was. I didn't think to look for internet requirements on the back of the game because I had never even thought of that before. I never considered that there would be online only games. So yeah, maybe I'm a little stupid. But nowadays, of course, that's something I would check for. In fact, that's usually the first thing I check for when I'm looking at a new game that I don't know is this even remotely single player? Because I tend to dislike games that are online only because you know what? Eventually that game's not going to work anymore or there's not going to be players for it anymore. But anyway, so yeah, I got home, tried to install it. Obviously it didn't work. So I was really bummed out. I took it to my dad's house once I figured out the internet problem that it was, it needed internet. It was weird too because it didn't say that it needed an internet connection. It gave me some kind of error, and obviously I couldn't look that error up without internet. So I just assumed that maybe my computer at home wasn't up to it. So I took it to my dad's house, and I was like, okay, I'll play it when I'm over here. And then it worked fine, and then it was telling me I needed a subscription, and I was like, this is horrible. This is a nightmare. I've never even heard of a subscription based game before. And I wasn't well off growing up or anything, so the idea of asking my dad to pay monthly fees for me to play a game just sounded terrible. I was like, no, this is the worst. First of all, my mom wasted money buying the game. Now I have to ask my dad to pay for it monthly. Like, this is terrible. This is a disaster. I was really like upset about it. Um, but he went for it. He was pretty cool about it. He was just like, okay, just if you don't want to play it anymore, just let me know and we'll stop the service. And then if you want to play it again, we can start it back up. Just um, if you feel like you're not going to play it, then just let me know. So I was like, okay. And when I started up the game, it had some kind of setting enabled by default, like volumetric shadows or something. I don't remember. I think it was related to shadows specifically, though. The game ran like absolute garbage, and I didn't know enough about like the advanced settings, so I just kind of assumed that that was the best the PC could do. Plus, I didn't usually have games that turned on settings like that by default, so I just kind of assumed, it knew better than me, so it was just gonna run like shit. Um, so I played that game for a very long time at incredibly awful frame rates, but that's how much I was engaged by it. I really wanted to explore and go to different planets, and I didn't understand that I probably should have stayed on the starting planet more, because the second I went to another planet, of course, I was horribly underleveled and I got my fucking teeth kicked in the second I left a city. But I was still so enraptured. I would go out and I would camp in the woods at night, and I would look around paranoid for any kind of creatures that might come try to fuck with me. I had no idea what I was doing with the leveling system. It's one of those games where I really wish I could play it over, because I would have a much better experience probably. And I mean over from the way it was when I got into it. So for people unfamiliar with Star Wars Galaxies, it went through, I think, 3 distinct phases, with the final phase being the one that basically killed the game. The first phase was just launch, I guess. It's often referred to as pre-CU, pre-combat upgrade. And then at some point they introduced an update called the combat upgrade. I believe I started playing after the combat upgrade, unless there's like a fourth phase that I'm not taking into account here. But the way I believe it happened was I joined after some kind of major update. A lot of people left, but there was still a pretty sizable amount of players. I would see people everywhere I went. And that was just in my server. And my server wasn't even one of the popular ones. I literally picked it because I liked the name, which was dumb because, of course, it was an East Coast server, but I didn't even think about that when I was a kid, of course. And then the final stage of the game's life was the new game engine, and that one killed off a lot of the player base because it made a lot of changes that were pretty unfavorable, I would say. One of the main ones being that during the part of the game where I joined up, if you wanted to be a Jedi, it was a big fucking deal. You had to go through so many hoops, so many weird, obscure steps, just to start your fucking Jedi training. And then continuing your Jedi training was weird because it was like you had to wait 2 weeks before the guy would talk to you and give you something else to do, while you developed your force sensitivity or whatever. It was like a huge, long process. And actually, by the time the NGE came out, I was in that process, which really sucked for me because in the NGE, it was just a class you picked. You could just be a Jedi, which of course meant the game was flooded with fucking Jedis, which... Not that I take immersion super seriously in games that I'm not, like, really invested, or universes I'm really invested in, like Star Wars. I'm not super invested in Star Wars, so I guess the immersion wasn't really that important to me in the first place, but seeing Jedis everywhere during the Galactic Civil War, it's a little weird. And anyway, it just took the feeling of, like, accomplishment and sort of, like, specialness out of being a Jedi, because fuck it, you could just make a new Jedi. You can make 10 new Jedis. Like, why wouldn't you? Whereas before, it was like a huge deal. It was a cool fucking process. And I remember me and a friend were going through it together. So yeah, that was a really disappointing thing. Anyway, I'm getting way off topic. Well, I guess no, I'm not. I'm kind of just giving a general overview of my experience with the game. But yeah, around the time I joined, there were players, lots of players, And I slogged through that shitty frame rate until I eventually figured out to disable that one particular graphics setting. It was only one thing that just tanked the performance. Everything else I could leave on, or like most of the way up. It was just that one setting, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was a night and day difference. I remember when I figured out when I turned it off, and then I looked back at the game, and I was like, what? I was blown away. I was like, this is going to be so much better, and I was already hooked. It was so fun. That feeling of like figuring that out. And then, man, I played that game so much. If it had a way to track how many hours I had played, it probably would have been disgusting. Because I've got, a lot of hours in games on the Steam and stuff, but I don't think anything's going to compare to how much I played Galaxies. I played it for many hours a day, every day after I got home from school. I loved it so much that I played it on fucking dial-up at my mom's house, because when she finally decided to get internet, that's what we got first, and it was trash. It was so horrible. And I would, of course, get disconnected constantly, and if somebody called the house, fuck my game, it's over, and I gotta wait like another however long it took for this, the horrible dial-up process to, oh, Jesus Christ. The horrible dial-up process to go through and, connect. That's how much I really wanted to play this game. I played it on dial-up, and there was better internet out there. It's just, I'm assuming my mom, didn't want to pay for it, or couldn't. That's another possibility. Or maybe she just didn't really know, because what the fuck did she know about the internet? My dad had good internet at his place in Orange County, but my dad was always a lot more tech-oriented, of course. Anyway, what else is there to say in this introductory episode? I don't know. I guess I played for so many years and met so many people that were sometimes very bizarre. There was a lot of weird dramas that came up. And when my dad finally started playing also, he met a lot of weird people. And that followed a trend in my dad's life where he'd be doing something perfectly ordinary, and he would be the one where all the weird, crazy shit would just, like, pop out and come over and visit him. It's funny, too, because a lot of people he would tell stories to about weird shit that had happened to him. They wouldn't believe it. His own fucking family members didn't believe it sometimes. His coworkers, nobody. And occasionally we would have proof. Or, like, I would be there and I could confirm that it happened. I remember the really famous one amongst, like, everyone I told it to was the Monkey Man in, I think it was in Pasadena or somewhere around there. It was a guy wearing a gorilla mask with an American flag cape, and I think he also had American flag like trunks and shoes and no shirt. And he was watering his lawn while blasting music and really grooving to it. And nobody believed us. And we showed him video, and they were like, "Yeah, that's Brandon in a mask." And it's like, does that guy look anything fucking like me? Look at his arms. He's fit. He's gorgeous. It's like people just didn't want to believe any of these fucking weird stories. It was really frustrating. I remember telling my aunt, his sister, stories that I remembered from him, and she would often just kind of sort of imply that he had lied to me about them. And it's like, hold on, lady. I've been there enough. I know that he doesn't fucking lie about this shit because it just happens. We went to Radio Shack once, and this woman, I know this is so off topic of the video, but I just wanted to make my point here that this weird trait of my father of encountering bizarre people carried into the gaming world because he met so many more psychos than I did in Galaxies. But yeah, we went to a Radio Shack, and there was this woman, and she was using like the little scanner to do the cash register, and she scans items, and every time she does it, she goes na 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 na, like that, like she's a little kid playing with a laser. She works at fucking Radio Shack. Like, we saw this in public, in person. It was really weird because, like, you don't want to mention it. You don't want to say anything about it. We got cut in line by nuns. I don't know if they were real nuns. That's something I didn't consider when it happened. I wasn't sure if, like, maybe they were just dressed that way. But nuns cut in front of us in line at Disneyland. I think it was Disneyland. It might have been Knott's Berry Farm, because sometimes I have memories that are crossed between those two amusement parks. And I don't know why, because I don't think they really have a lot in common, right? Anyway, the point is we got cut in front of by nuns, and he texted his boss and told him that, and his boss didn't believe him, so he fucking took a picture of it and sent it to him. But yeah, you know, he met a lot of weird people, and I'll be telling his stories too, because for those of you who don't know, I guess, my dad did die in 2013, so he can't tell them himself, but I would love to share his stories with Galaxies, because, you know, he and I were very close, and we loved a lot of the same shit. Usually he would take things to a very extreme level of obsession. Like, we'll talk about that later in another video, but when he played Galaxies, boy, he hit it a whole different way than I did. I mean, I liked to just be in it. He would make goals, and he would do things to accomplish them, like, super aggressively. Like, he was very intense about it. Whereas I was just kind of like, I'm going to go fly around in my, whatever ship I was flying at the time, and I'm just going to blow shit up in space. I don't even have a goal. I just want to fly. You know, this is totally different attitudes towards the game. But yeah, I'm not sure what I'll talk about in the next episode of this, but, you know, I'll think about it beforehand and make sure that I stay on topic. Because sometimes I get a little, you know, different directions. But yeah, this is just the intro video anyway. It's not about any one particular thing. So yeah, I'll be telling lots of stories about Star Wars Galaxies. I don't know how many episodes of this there would be, but obviously there is a finite amount, because there's a finite amount of experiences I had with it, and nobody can ever do that again. I guess there's an emulator, but you need a copy of the game, and I don't even have a disk drive on this fucking computer, and I don't even know if I have a copy of it anymore. We had a few, and I'll explain why in another video. But yeah, I don't think I could even play the emulator, so that's unfortunate. Because actually, I would really love to play that game again. I played it for so long, and at the end, when I stopped playing it, I didn't even stop playing it when it ended. I stopped playing it before that. But it was just because it was so much time that I could do other things with. Like, even just playing other video games was a better use of time than just continuing to play this game, which at that point really had, like, no player base left. It was in a sad state when I stopped, so that's probably a lot to do with why I stopped playing. And all the people I had ever been friends with had long since stopped playing. So that was a bummer too. But anyway, shout out to my guild, in case any of them happen to watch this, which would be very, very strange. But shout out to my guild Ice from Shadowfire. And big ups to my boy Daho, who was the guild leader. And to... who else is a good person to mention, just on the wild chance that they saw this? I don't know if I'm even pronouncing this right, because I guess I never thought about how to say it out loud. Arame? I guess if she saw this, she would know who she was. She was always really nice to me. She gave me something in the game that was worth, like, millions of credits. She didn't have to, you know. Very, very thoughtful group of people in Ice. So, yeah, shout out to my boys in Ice, if you guys are watching this. Which was the counter to a guild called Fire, I think. I feel like I remember that correctly. There was a rebel guild called Fire, and there was an imperial guild called Ice. And for a long time, I was imperial, and I was in Ice. But anyway, yeah, that's it for now. We'll save any other things I have to say about Galaxies for other videos in this series. So I'll see you guys in whatever the next one is. Bye, everyone. Hope you have a nice day.